אז ערב טוב לכולם, מקווה שכולם מרגישים טוב, בריאים ולא מבודדים. שנה אזרחית טובה מקבוצת אינטראקטיב ישראל קודם כל, ותודה לכל מי שמצטרף אלינו הערב. אז מי שעוד לא הספיק להכיר אותי, שמי עידו הררי, אני מנהל את מרכז הלימוד של אינטראקטיב ישראל. התבקשתי על ידי הקבוצה להנחות את המפגש הזה הערב. אני סוחר נוסטרו, וברוב חיי הבוגרים עוסק במסחר מקצועי בהון עצמי. מי מכם שעוד לא יודע, הקמנו כאן באינטראקטיב את מרכז הלימוד אינטראקטיב ישראל, שזו אקדמיה שלמה עם תהליכי לימוד מקיפים בכל הדיסציפלינות במסחר. אני בטוח שחלקכם כבר משוייך למרכז לתהליך כזה או אחר, ומי שלא יוכל כמובן להתרשם ממה שאנחנו עושים כאן ישירות מתוך האתר של הברוקר, או בכתובת של אתר מרכז הלימוד inter.il.academy, או פשוט לכתוב בגוגל מרכז הלימוד ותגיעו אלינו. הערב אנחנו משדרים מפגש מיוחד וייחודי שנארח בו נציגים מבורסה חדשה בשיקגו שנקראת The Small Exchange. אז אנחנו בעצם נפגוש את פרנק שיציג לנו את הבורסה, מה מיוחד בה, אילו מוצרים פיננסיים נסחרים בה, ואיך אנחנו גם נוכל להיחשף למעשה ולפעול בהם. אז לפני שאנחנו מעבירים את השרביט לפרנק, התבקשתי בכמה דקות להסביר למי שלא מכיר מה זה בעצם חוזה עתידי, מהיכן הגיעו לנו החוזים העתידיים ואיך אנחנו בתור סוחרים פעילים פועלים בהם. אז בעצם השווקים הגלובליים והמודרניים לחוזים עתידיים שמתנהלים היום באופן אלקטרוני מקורם בארצות הברית של המאה ה-19, כאשר הייצור החקלאי שהתגבר והצריכה הגדלה והולכת חייבו את קיומו של שוק מרכזי למשלוח, מחירה וקנייה, ובהמשך גם לגילוי מחירים ולמתן ערובות בעצם באשר לאיכות של התוצרת והתשלום עבורה. בעצם במהלך ה-150 שנה האחרונות שווקי החוזים העתידיים ממלאים תפקיד חשוב מאוד במערכת הכלכלית, כי הם נותנים לנו בעצם מנגנון יעיל ואפקטיבי לניהול של סיכוני מחיר. בעצם בעבר מתקני האחסון היו פרימיטיביים, השווקים לא היו מאורגנים והייצור היה בלתי צפוי. יצרני התוצרת החקלאית והצרכנים בעצם היו נתונים לתנודות עונתיות דרסטיות של ההיצע והביקוש, להצפות שוק, למחסורים חוזרים ונשנים ולתנועות אגרסיביות מאוד במחירים. החוזים העתידיים שהחלו להיסחר בשיקגו ב-1865 היו חוזים על תבואות חקלאיות. בעצם היסטוריית המסחר בחוזים התחילה עם הסוחרים היוונים והפיניקים, שבאותם ימים למעשה הובילו את הסחורה שלהם למחירה מסביב לעולם. היום לשווקי החוזים העתידיים קיימת רשימה ארוכה הולכת וגדלה של מכשירים פיננסיים, שכוללים מתכות, משאבי אנרגיה, מטבעות זרים, מדדי מניות, ריביות ועוד. בעצם בדומה להתפתחות של המגוון במכשירים העתידיים, הלכו והתפתחו גם שיטות וטכנולוגיות המסחר בכלים האלו, כאשר עד שנות ה-90 המסחר התבצע בחוזים עתידיים בעיקר על רצפת המסחר, the trading floor בבורסת החוזים. למעשה הסוחרים היו מתקבצים על רצפת המסחר בצורה של טבעות, וממש צועקים ומסמנים אחד לשני את הוראות הקנייה והמחירה. הסגנון הזה של המסחר נקרא הצעקה הפתוחה, the open cry out, והוא הוליד בתחילת שנות ה-90 מסחר אלקטרוני שלמעשה התקיים בשעות שלאחר פעילות הבורסה בחוזים מסוימים. היום השווקים לחוזים עתידיים הם למעשה אתרי מסחר גלובליים, מתוחכמים מאוד מבחינה טכנולוגית, ומתקיים בהם מסחר במהירות הבזק על גבי פלטפורמות אלקטרוניות מסביב לעולם במהלך כמעט 24 שעות ביממה. בואו נבין רגע ממה מורכב חוזה עתידי. אז בעצם כל חוזה עתידי מפרט את מהות הנכס הבסיסי, את נפח הסחורה, את המקום ואת מועד ההספקה. לדוגמה, אם אנחנו סוחרים חוזה עתידי של חבית נפט שכולנו מכירים, אנחנו מכירים אותו בסימול CL, אז למעשה החוזה הזה מורכב על נכס בסיס שנקרא נפט גולמי קל מתוק, light sweet crude oil, אני בטוח שכולכם מכירים. בדוגמה הזאת מועד ההספקה שלו לצורך העניין הוא במרץ 22, ומקום ההספקה הוא בהנרי אב בעיר ארט בלואיזיאנה. זו רק דוגמה אחת, אבל למעשה כאשר צדדים נכנסים לחוזה עסקה עתידית, הם מסכימים לסחור בנכס או בנכס הבסיס במועד מסוים בעתיד. כלומר, נכס יכול להיות, כמו שאמרנו, סחורה ממשית, נפט גולמי, פולי קפה, כותנה, עונקיות זהב, או מוצר פיננסי כמו מדדי מניות או מטבעות כלשהם. אז בעצם מה התפקיד של בורסת החוזים בתוך התהליך הזה? אז הבורסה מבטלת את הסיכון ההדדי, כלומר היא מבטיחה את קיום ההתחייבויות של הצדדים. אז כאשר חוזה עתידי נרכש או נמכר, הבורסה משמשת כקונה עבור כל מוכר וכמוכר עבור כל קונה, והיא בעצם מייצרת סטנדרטיזציה לתהליך, כלומר כל אחד יודע בדיוק כמה הוא ישלם, מה איכות הסחורה שהוא יקבל ומתי הוא יקבל אותה. ולסיום בואו נדבר קצת על השחקנים המרכזיים שפעילים בעולם הזה. אז בעצם בעולם החוזים העתידיים אנחנו נמצא בנקאים למשכנתאות, חקלאים, סוחרי אג"ח, סוחרי תבואות, ספקולנטים, גופים מוסדיים גדולים, סוחרים פרטיים, וגם חברות תעשייה גדולות שלמעשה עושות שימוש בחומרי הגלם ונוטות להשתמש בחוזים כדי לגדר את הסיכון ולקבע מחירים. אז זה היה על קצה המזלג כמובן, אני מקווה שכולם הבינו לפחות את הקונספט סביב החוזה העתידי. ועכשיו בואו נגיד שלום לפרנק מ-Small Exchange ונראה באמת מה יש לנו לחדש לנו. אז so good evening Frank, or good morning at your time zone. First of all, we want to thank you very much for being with us today and sparing the time to meet our traders and customers at Israel Interactive Trading or Interactive Israel. So Frank, the stage is yours to tell us all about the Small Exchange and the unique and innovative products that we can find there. So go ahead.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Ido. I'm super happy to be here today with your group of traders here talking about the new things from the Small Exchange. And just to reiterate some of Ido's points here, I want to start off with what futures are in general, what the landscape is for futures you have access to as traders, and then hammer home a couple products from the Small Exchange that are new and innovative, but also provide, we think, a good starting point for new traders, but also a smaller product for experienced traders to scale in and out of their positions. So if we can here begin with the start of our welcome to the Small Exchange presentation, we can jump into defining futures and the products that the Small Exchange has to offer. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. And so, yeah, this is going to be a big welcome to the Small Exchange, but I do want to start with our disclosure here in our next slide and then get right on into the presentation on futures and how you can use them. You have to keep in mind that futures are a derivatives product that do pose risks relative to ETFs and stocks and everything else. But let's speak a little bit to what futures are to start. Ido had a great introduction there relative to how the space has evolved over the last several decades. But just to kick things off here, futures are by definition agreements between two parties to transact an asset at a specified quantity and date in the future, but at today's traded price. Now, what does that mean for you, the trader here? Well, it's just going to simply be any market like stocks, commodity markets like crude oil, or new markets like cryptocurrencies, whereby you are trading that future price of that market as it lies a week down the line, a month down the line, or months down the line, relative to its price today. Like the S&P 500 in our example moving forward here, that market has an index value. It has an ETF value that you would call maybe the current prices of that stock market. The future there in the black line that you can't really see because they're so close to each other. It's the same market there, but it's basically a lower cost replacement for buying and selling that S&P 500. In this example, you can see not a lot of big deviations between the futures, the index, and the ETF, but futures do allow you to buy and sell any given market, be it stocks or otherwise, just in a lower cost way, as we'll get to here in a second. But where does the Small Exchange come in on this futures landscape that's been around for well over a century here. We started about 2 years ago, and our main goal was to make futures and all of their attributes, all of the ways that everyday traders can take advantage of these markets, just make them more accessible to that everyday person. The futures of old were designed for larger institutions, big banks, big farming entities, and so on. Our futures are designed for the everyday person, from small cannabis to our crude oil product, metals, US dollar, interest rates, cryptocurrencies we're getting into here. We run the full gamut of asset classes, but you'll see here that we're trying to make all of them more accessible and just easier, cheaper to trade. Now, how are we making them more accessible? To start out, all of our futures have uniform pricing and uniform expirations. So by design, you're able to access these low cost futures markets with everything from stocks to commodities, interest rates, and everything, ticking in the same uniform tick, zero point zero 0.01 tick increments that equate to $1, no multipliers or different tick increments like in S&Ps versus NASDAQ versus Dow, different variations of crude oil or gold or everything else. Everything ticks 0.01, and all of those ticks equate to $1. Same goes for expirations. We have 10 products right now. 9 of them expire on the third Friday every single month. Crude oil, because of some of the nuances of that product, it's the second Friday, but we try to make the design of all of our futures from every asset class as simple and digestible as possible for you, the everyday trader. And now the other big thing, and something I want to harp on a little bit more before we bring Ito back in, is the sizing of the small exchange products. Futures allow you to access different asset classes for less money. And so you look at the E-mini S&P, that's a product that is now up to $240,000 in size. And what people love about that product is you can get exposure, buying or selling, long or short exposure to that stock market for a fraction of its worth. When you buy stocks or ETF shares, you have to pay 50 or 100% to own those shares. To own $240,000 worth of S&P 500, you only have to pay 16,000 bucks. But that's still a large price tag, even if you are getting a nice reduction percentage-wise relative to the size of the product. Now, they've in recent years created the micro S&P 500 to quell some of those problems of product sizes getting too large, but still that now has grown to a $24,000 product that has a margin well over $1,000, and we feel is simply just too big for that everyday person who's maybe either trying to try out futures for the first time. A market that moves a couple hundred to $1,000 a day is a tough market to start out in the micros or the E-minis there. And we provide plenty of products like our small yield that will, in a little bit, less than $1,000 in size, and you're still getting that efficient reduction in cost where you're not paying, 50%, 100% to buy and sell, this being an interest rate market, but also our stock markets. But we've dropped down the size so you can trade different asset classes back and forth, and you only have a product that is $900 in this example and costing you just a couple $100 to trade. And I want to run through a couple more of these examples and show you, here being our small cannabis futures, you can access $800 worth of CGC to Cron and a bunch of other pot stocks in this futures contract. $800 for just about $200 in initial margin. That really makes it a more cost-effective investment for those of you out there who think pot stocks are moving higher or lower in the next months to years. You can buy or sell this product and get a lot better returns on your capital. And also, though, for day traders or active traders looking at their platform, intraday or every couple of days, looking to sell markets and make, 20, 50, $100, really nice returns on those day trades. And that goes for our other markets as well as we get into I believe it is some of our metals markets here in a second, or our crude oil that we'll get onto. Yeah, we got a metals market here from the small exchange that combines gold, silver, and platinum and lets you trade the three of them in a $7,000 product that costs just $1,000 to trade. And so great efficiency to trade this thing back and forth. I know gold and silver and platinum, all the precious metals, um, very good active day trades or swing trades, if you will, from like a week long or a medium term standpoint. But those old gold and silver contracts are quite large. The gold contract at gold at 1800 is an $180,000 product that's going to demand thousands and thousands to trade it. It's high risk and it's still high cost, even though you're getting the futures efficiency. We bundled up gold, silver, and platinum, dropped down the size, $7,000. The size of this product, it moves about $100 or so per day. And you can feel comfortable, hopefully, with that risk and the reduced margin. And the same goes for our crude oil market here as well. $8,000 in US based crude, $1,500 price tag. So you're getting a greater efficiency. You don't have to put up money to trade crude oil back and forth. And you also don't have to deal with the $80,000 product or the $40,000 product, or at 1/5 the size there, the $20,000 product. I think I got that. I don't think I actually got that right. But either way, you've got 1/10 the size of CL here with the small crude oil futures, costing you just about $1,000 to trade and not posing as much risk as your other futures markets. And as we move on to foreign exchange and then interest rates here in a second, now these aren't as necessarily historically attractive day trades for a lot of people. A lot of people like to jump into stocks and commodities when it comes to day trading or investing for the next several weeks or months or what have you. But the US dollar has been moving around a ton in recent years, and our product here gets you $15,000 worth of USD euro exposure, USD pound exposure, yen. It also has Chinese renminbi and Australian dollar and a few other markets bundled to one US dollar product that's just going to cost you $845 to trade. And this isn't the most volatile market, but when the margin is so low to trade this product, you are getting decent returns intraday and day to day trading something like US dollar. And then finally, in interest rates as well, you have this idea of interest rates not being maybe the most attractive, the most volatile trade in the world, but these markets have really heated up recently as the US Federal Reserve is looking at how much they need to hike interest rates. I know the Eurozone doing the same, a lot of places abroad looking at where they need to lift interest rates off of zero, where they've been for most of the pandemic, to try to incite economic growth with the pandemic fears here. Well, now it's become a conversation of how much are they going to hike? And these yield markets, these interest rate markets, are really starting to move. And what's really nice about this as well is this, similar to the small cannabis, very small product, under $1,000 in size, just costing you a couple of $100 to try out futures to get either long or short interest rates. If you think interest rates are going to rise, you buy this product. If you think they're going to fall, you sell this product. But also, just if you're testing out futures market, it really doesn't get smaller than this. In the small cannabis, we have the smallest futures on the planet at your disposal here to either get started in the futures space. Maybe you've traded a lot of equities and you want to try out interest rates. This is a great product. Try that out finally. Low cost, low risk at just a couple $100. And that's really where the small exchange comes in for all of you out there, is to create smaller products, simpler products, hopefully easier for you to grasp the movement in interest rates or crude oil or stocks or metals or what have you, and pose the same cost efficiency, the same, you know, cheapness of futures relative to stocks and ETFs, but posing a little bit less risk because of that smaller size. So we hope that you'll take a look at those small exchange products and try them out at least, or at least take a look and see if some of the trading in small futures fits your fancy. So thanks so much for having me on today. That is your welcome to the small exchange.
So Frank, thank you again for this full introduction, and I really hope our customers find this instrument very attractive and get to act and to know them better. But just one thing that I want to understand that everybody understands. So you so you basically solving two critical problems. One is the size, is the exposure that a lot of people want to trade, for example, ES or NQ, and contract size is huge. And the other problem is margin request, right?
That's exactly right. You know, futures help you lower the margins in general, like whether it's our futures or the CME's futures or ICE's futures, they all bring the of products down. But where the small exchange comes in here, and great point there, you know, that they solve the historical problems in futures is they drive size and thus the risk. You hear a lot of story people starting out in futures and trading ETH or trading NQ or CL and having bad experiences because even if you win your first couple trades, maybe it's like I made $100 and then a big move in the market is going to be worth thousands of bucks. We want to give lower cost, but at a small size so that your risk is diminished. You're not over leveraging your account. You're not taking on too much risk, those historically large products.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that we all understand it now. And maybe one thing that it's worth to mention, also the opportunity to use these futures to edge in very critical or out of the trading regular trading hours. So, for example, if I have I don't know, long on one stock from the Nasdaq, and I want to in for example, in $5,000 exposure. So if I want to short one contract, so the big contract or the big contract will be big for me. So this can be very good opportunity.
Absolutely right, Ido. Because yeah, speculation is one thing. Where buying and selling because of where I think markets are going is very essential, and a lot of people use futures to that end. But risk management is also huge. And to your point, yeah, I have a portfolio of $10,000 in stocks, or even down to $5,000 in stocks. I can't trade that E-mini Nasdaq or the S&P or even the micros. It's too big. My hedge will be bigger than my account, and so I need to have a smaller product to be able to hedge and manage. Great point there.
And also, we can say that you create an opportunity that doesn't exist in other places. For example, future for cannabis companies that I don't think that I know in any other place, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we really try to mix traditional products like, you know, similar to S&Ps or similar to gold and crude oil. But another big piece is innovation and pot stocks as they've become more popular and cannabis, you see the products in more places worldwide. We thought that they needed a stock market in there that you can access easily and trade back and forth for a low cost. And we're trying to do the same with cryptocurrencies and other innovative new markets, giving the everyday trader what they want, what they see in the news and everywhere else, letting them trade it back and forth or invest in it for a lower cost.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, Frank, so thank you very much for this introduction again. אוקיי, חברים, אז אנחנו ממש כבר מסיימים. אנחנו מודים לכם שהצטרפתם למפגש, מקווים שהצלחנו לחשוף אתכם למוצרים אטרקטיביים ומעניינים, וכמובן שכל מידע נוסף או שאלות בנושא תוכלו להפנות כרגיל לצוות שירות הלקוחות המסור שלנו באינטראקטיב ישראל. תודה רבה לכולם, שיהיה לכם המשך ערב נעים.